because I was gay and I was made illegal by the law, I felt that was very unfair. I'm Michael Kirby, and I'm a former Justice of the High Court of Australia, and today I'm answering questions which have been submitted by you. The first question is it true that the law is always fair? Well, the answer to that, in a word, is no. I found very early in my life that there was one aspect of the law, at least, that was very unfair. And it was unfair to me, and it was the law relating to sexual minorities. And because I was gay and I was made illegal by the law, I felt that that was very unfair.
Justice Kirby went to Tasmania's northwest coast, a stronghold of anti-gay opinion, to back changes to the law.
And that's one of the reasons why my partner Jan and I are completely honest and open about our sexuality. If a judge of the highest court in the country is gay, it means it's no big deal.
Many of the laws that are unfair are laws that were declared in times that were conforming to different religious norms, for example. And that was so in the case of homosexuality. But we changed things. We did it rather slowly. The law on that issue is now much fairer. I don't say it's completely fair. I think, for example, that the way many people treat trans people is very unfair. Most people, including myself, have not had a lot of contact with trans people. When you do, you generally find that they're just as boring as the rest of us.
Is Michael Kirby alive?
What planet are you living on? Well, I think I am. My partner sometimes says that I'm a bit dead from the neck up and that I need a bit of a sharpening up. I'm still working. I work 7 days a week, and I keep a very busy life, and I keep meeting people who are asking questions. Though I've never been asked, am I still alive? That is something completely new. Is Michael Kirby married? Well, I'm terribly respectable, and I am married. I'm married to my partner. His name is Johan. I met him back in 1969 at the time of the first moon landing, and that's a long while ago, before most of you were even living. So, yes, I am married. That took a long time to be possible, but it ultimately became possible, and immediately it was on the 50th anniversary of the very day, at the very time, and not far from the very place Jan and I met, which all went to show what a lot of nonsense it was to prevent people from getting married simply because of a feature of their nature that they couldn't change and hadn't chosen. So a lot of people were gossiping about my sexuality and my relationships, but fortunately I had a secret weapon. And my secret weapon was my partner Johan is a very good looker, and also he's very funny. I'm a bit boring, but Johan is full of laughter and jokes, and everybody loves him. It's only me that some people don't find so funny and so lovable. Are you laughing, are you?
Will lawyers be replaced by AI? Lawyers will not be replaced, but I think the role of lawyers is going to be changed by the increasing use and the rapid use of artificial intelligence. We're beginning to adapt our processes to artificial intelligence, making a decision as to whether it's fair or just. That's a matter on which there can often be real differences of opinion, and that's where you're going to need judges.
As, for example, in the Mabo case, where the High Court of Australia, before I was a member of the court, decided that the First Nations people had a right to recognition of their rights in the traditional lands of the First Nations people. There's no way under current artificial intelligence that the machine could produce a decision such as the Mabo case. It would have produced law that had been applied for 150 years, and it took a human being or the human beings in the High Court of Australia to say this may have been the law, but it isn't suitable to our present time, and therefore it won't be accepted as part of the law of Australia. Now the next question is the High Court more powerful than the government? Undoubtedly the Parliament is more powerful, and the state parliaments and the federal parliament have more power to actually make and change the law. But the High Court also has power to make the law, and in that respect making the common law, which is the fundamental principles of our country apart from the laws made by Parliament. And likewise, the courts can make law that is quite controversial. I've been pushing for international law to be recognised and, in appropriate cases, applied by the courts. If there is an ambiguity, if there is an uncertainty about the law. This matter came up in the case of Al-Kateb against Godwin, which was a case of whether the law of Australia permitted indefinite detention. Al-Kateb was a case about a person who had Palestinian nationality. Mr. Al-Kateb, at the time the decision was brought to the High Court, lost his case, and he was ordered to be returned to Palestine. The government couldn't get that return, and so he continued in detention, and a lot of people were very upset about that. The minister at the time, Senator Vanstone, decided that she would use her ministerial powers to terminate his indefinite detention, and Mr. Al-Kateb became an Australian citizen. He returned to his occupation as a draftsman, and he demonstrated, as so many migrants who are unwanted have done, that they have a lot to contribute to a country like Australia. Can sovereign citizens win in court? They can win if the law is on their side. When I was President of the Court of Appeal, more than when I was in the High Court, I had to sit every Monday in the practice list, and we had a number of people who came to that list with quite important and serious issues not legally represented. And the judges, I hope, certainly in my own case, never differentiate between a person who has a lawyer and a person who hasn't. But sometimes if you don't have a lawyer, you can't get to the nitty-gritty of what the issue is, and you can't persuade the judge that a legal wrong has been done to you. The problem with sovereign lawyers is they are often using scripts that are written by people who have gone before, but they're not as clever or as knowledgeable as those people. They don't do the hard work to get the matter up to a point that it will be persuasive, and they therefore lose, and they say that's because I'm just a sovereign citizen, not a lawyer. But it's usually because they have not been able to find a legal problem as distinct from some complaint about some other aspect, the morality or the justice, as they see it, of how they've been treated in the courts below. Why is court so expensive? That's a very good question, because our legal system's pretty good when you can get to it. But getting to it and getting a lawyer and being able to afford a case in the court is beyond the pocket of most people. At a certain time in my life, I did a lot of pro bono work before I was a judge, acting for free, because the cause was great. And the cause was great because it involved injustice. On one occasion we had a conference in Hobart, Tasmania, and we had invited the Chief Justice of the German Constitutional Court. And he then said, you have the Rolls-Royce system of law, and all we've got in Germany, we've got a Volkswagen system of law. But how many people can afford a Rolls-Royce? And how many people can afford a Volkswagen? And that was a very big question. The conference in Hobart fell into total silence because we all knew that ours is a good system, but not everybody can afford to use it. artificial intelligence may come to our rescue in accessibility to justice. In a number of countries, particularly China, attempts have been made to provide answers to legal questions, even authoritative and binding answers, by machine, by AI. What judges wear under their robes? Well, some of them I don't want to go into the details of. They wear their underpants and their singlet and their socks. In some cases, their street clothing, and the robes go over it, and that hides the street clothing. In many courts, older courts, they wear another robe or a jacket which is in a traditional style, and it's all quite elegant, and it has a value of reminding judges that they are not just doing an ordinary job. It isn't an ordinary job, and that they have a responsibility, including a responsibility to be polite, fair and accurate in their legal decisions, and that they're always under others who are judging what they do as judges. And in the case of judges who are sitting in criminal trials, by putting on a wig and by putting on robes, it can have a practical consequence that the judge is rendered pretty unrecognisable. When the judge then goes out into the public streets, even people who've been tried in the case by a judge will not recognise him or her because of the funny old wigs that they have to wear in court. How accurate is Judge Judy? Basically, she's there to make you laugh. And I've got to tell you something. There was a judge I knew who was a sort of frustrated comedian, and he always wanted to crack jokes. And most people, I found, didn't like it. For them, a day in court was not a fun occasion. It was a very serious day in their life. And lawyers have to be reminded, and judges in particular, that this is something most people are going to remember all their lives. So you're always on display, and you should always be well-mannered, courteous, attentive, and try your best to be accurate in the law and fair in practice. Because I came from the outer suburbs and I went to public schools, I was always polite to everybody, and I still am, even to the ABC.